this is one of the birthplaces of actual resistance. Because back in the days, like when indigenous populations, when colonization was happening, they were getting pushed further and further back. This is the place they came because the Europeans had no idea what to do with this, right? They had no idea how to live. In the days where there were slaves, people would run away. There were whole maroon, what they call maroon colonies of mixed people that made their life out here and lived out here. And a lot of the people, the Acadians that were coming from, kicked out of Nova Scotia and pushed down here, all those people still live here. Down here because my ex-husband's actually from here. He's a Cajun, and we moved here so he could work in the oil industry, because the oil industry has all these promises that people, even just with a high school diploma, can make good money, you know. It's a false promise, because you might make good money one month, but you're not going to make nothing the next month or two, and so you really just even out. But at the time, it was more money than we were making in Oklahoma, and so that was good. But then the BP oil spill hit. So BP invited people to go out on a boat and see the oil, and so we did, but they showed us just, first of all, they didn't show us very much, and then secondly, we never talked to any real people. And so I went and got out, just my own accord, I went and got on a boat with a fisherman and his little boy, and we went out and we found the oil, and my God, it came in like a blob, like a monster, you know, it came around your boat. It wasn't that long before we found a pelican that was in the oil, and we tried to wipe the oil off, but it was having convulsions, and we realized pretty quickly that it wasn't gonna be able to make it. And so I'm just on this boat with like this little boy and this gigantic Cajun big fisher guy, and he just falls on his knees, and he just like fell apart, and he's crying. And so the little boy starts crying too, which means I start crying too, so we're all just sitting there in like this circle around this, like, you know, this poor dying bird, and it did die. And I remember coming home that night, I was looking in the mirror and just being like, how I contributed to this, and what can I do to change it, because it's just all so fragile. People think the earth is just so, she's just so tough, and she is, you know, but being out there and just not hearing any kind of life in a place that should have just been teeming with life, and then just having silence, it was choking you and choke you out.
My name is Ann Whitehat, and coming from you live here from South Louisiana.
We're both with the Lavigne camp, which is the resistance camp down here in South Louisiana, and we're fighting the Bayou Bridge pipeline, which is the tail end of the Dakota Access Pipeline. It's set to go through 700 of our waterways, including the Atchafalaya Basin, which is the largest natural swamp in North America, and it's also home to thousands of species, including the once endangered black bear, all kinds of beautiful birds. So we're trying to protect that waterway, including Bayou Lafourche, which provides drinking water to 300,000 people, including all of the United Hominid Nation.
This pipeline is going through North Dakota, where I live at, all the way through the Standing Rock area, and went through bulldozed old burial grounds, and not caring, just went, go ahead and did it. So that's another thing that really what brings me here, is to actually stop the end of this black snake that went through my state.
I didn't wake up and say, this is what, you know, I want to spend the rest year of my life fighting. I love the swamp. I'd love to be out here fishing in the swamp right now. That's what I wanted to be doing, you know. But can't fish in this. And if there's gonna be anything left for our kids to be able to fish in, then this is what I gotta do. I'm not a rich person. I'm not gonna leave them no vast fortune. All I have is the common goods that we all have, you know. So it's my job, I feel like, to take care of it so they'll have it, you know? And them and my grandkids too. I don't understand why anybody would think anything differently. So, I mean, as you can get a little closer, you can see where the deforestation has happened. They didn't look into how this precious forest, this precious swampland's never going to come back to the way it was. That's it. You missed us?
Making American great.
I ever take a picture of calling the cops. This is the easement. This is Bayou Chene that we're on right here. Those big black things, those are floaters. And what they do is they make a big ditch, right? They put the pipe on like a rotation, and they have those attached to them, and then when they get it all welded and laid out, they cut those, and the floaters come off, and they restack them, and the pipe falls down into the ground. And the pipe has cement all over this, all over it, makes it real heavy, except for the welds where it leaks. Yeah, it's probably some kind of methane bubbles or something that's coming out of this line right here, but that's the problem, is they come out here and they build this oil infrastructure, and then there's no accountability, because a lot of times these companies that build this stuff, they go out of business, or they change their name and become something else, and then they don't have any responsibility to come back and clean this, and nobody, according to the courts, they can't make them either. And so now who's going to fix that? Nobody. It's going to sit there and run whatever that is out under the water and into the air. You see back here, I don't know if you can see it from here, but you know, there's big flares where they're just like, you know, flaring off gas, you know. I mean, it's just the waste of it. And so instead of like saying no, like there's no more, you can't do any more until you fix what you've broken, our like crazy systems are just saying no. Let's just keep allowing for growth, and to keep allowing for these people to be getting rich off of our resources, off of our natural world. That belongs to Miss Theda Larson Wright, who had asked us to go and protect that piece of property right there, because they hadn't expropriated it. They didn't have permission to be on it. In fact, they had told them they did not want a pipeline and not to be on it, but yet they were building over there. This is not an easement. They do not have permission to be here. The landowners have said no. They're my people's land.
Let him out! Let him go! You understand that? You're all trespassing. If you don't want to go, you better.
No!
We're not trespassing.
You are trespassing! 3 for every one you take. There will be 3 more. Oh, fuck. You did it! Brothers and sisters! Sorry, y'all. Please don't trespass. Stop shooting her! Stop shooting her! Get back! Oh! Hey! go into jail in Dallas County, they have this long list of questions. It's long. One of the questions was, do you have a chronic illness, you know? And I'm being a jackass because I'm a jackass. So I was like, yeah, it's colonization. And she said, well, how do you spell that? And so then I was kind of running with it because she's fucking serious, right? So I was like, really? Okay. C-O-L-O. You know, I thought she'd be like, stop being a dumbass. But instead she was just like, yeah, okay. All right, so I go to see the nurse, you know. And she's just like, by the way, didn't ask me one goddamn question about my arm. I was like, oh, I hurt my arm. She's just like, yeah. Anyway, it says right here that you have a chronic illness of, what is that? Colonization, you know? And like being a smart, I was like, yeah. I said, that's when white people crawl up your ass and refuse to leave, like that. And she's just like, took her paper down, stamps that shit. 2 cops came in and took my ass to solitary. Nobody said a word. No change of expression. It was the funniest joke ever told and well worth the 7 hours of solitary. At least 3 hours in. 3 hours in, I was just like, it was funny.
What was it, 7 hours
I don't
in
know.
solitary funny?
And I wasn't exactly sure how long I was going to be there. I was like, let's just hope that they're not keeping me for those 3 days. This is the first time that we've ever seen this level of like direct action done here, and I think it took some people by surprise. But you don't get to tell people what they should and shouldn't do when they're fighting for their own liberation. I always say, like, it's not right for anyone to tell the rabbit how to get itself out of the mouth of the coyote. That's up for the rabbit. Know what I'm saying? Go after the coyote. Then we'll talk about whose side you're on.
There was really nothing in our community saying, this is what's going to go on, you know. And once we met Cherri, and they started talking about the pipeline coming this way, and I'm like, wait, what pipeline?
Everybody made promises, saying we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and nobody do nothing to help you until you make some noise.
Why should I have to give up what my family has worked so hard to provide for me because you want to make some money? Why you want to choke the life out of one community? And it is choke the life. You know, what used to be the high school has been moved. That's going to be a methanol plant. What used to be the post office is going to be an all testing facility. We need to look at a different way to live.
My 3-year-old child told me, Mommy, my nose doesn't work. No child should have to do that. No child should have to say, my nose doesn't work, Mommy. Why doesn't my nose work? Because I can't breathe. It's time out. We have people here who have retired. They've spent their whole lives here in St. James Parish.
Yes.
The elderly should not have to deal with unclean air, polluted water. We have to stand up. We have to rise.
Yes, yes.
Because we can't stand for this. If we stand for this, we'll fall for anything.
Some days, to tell you the truth, I'm just ready for this fight to be over. I'm tired now. But then I get up and I come out here and I see all this and I realize, you know, shoot, what do I got to complain about? I don't get to be tired. These ancient trees, they're still living, they're still growing. I don't think I'd have the same perspective that I have on these waters and these lands if it wasn't from where I came from. And all the women that lead Lavigne camp, they're all Indigenous women, and all of them live here. That's why a lot of times people say, oh, all these outsiders or something like that. But 100% of the leadership for this entire resistance has always been people living in Louisiana, or people from Louisiana. So what? It's not my fault Energy Transfer Partners made enemies all up and down all over this damn country and world because they're such a horrible, sorry-ass company. I didn't do that to them. They did that. They made the enemies themselves. So yeah, a lot of people want to come down and fight the sons of bitches. Of course they do. And they're gonna keep fighting. I can tell you this, when this fight's over and ETP goes somewhere else, if I get the chance to be supporting some other group of people that are fighting, I'll be right there standing right next to them. So that's how it works, you know? It's still hard, I mean, to live this life, and it's not what people might call normal, you know, but we have had a good number of like death threats or threats, intimidation, things that went past threats even, you know. One night I was coming home, it was 9:30 or 10. I had just done some numbers at my friend's house, and I got home and I heard someone calling from the field. It was a woman. She said she was looking for her kid and asked me if I could help her. And so I was didn't even think about it. I rushed towards her, but the thing started feeling weird because she got farther away as I got closer. And then about the time I stopped to think to myself, this doesn't feel right, I started to go, I kind of took a step backwards. And when I did it, two people, honestly, they reminded me of like a build that you'd see somebody in the military or a police officer. I know how they come up behind you, and I know that's what it felt like to me. But instead of grabbing me like they would if they were arresting me, they pushed me. And I'm not a little woman, but at the same time, like two full-grown men push you hard from behind and you're not ready for it, you're gonna go flying. So I kind of did into the grass. By the time I hit the ground and kind of got up on my fours, like they were both on top of me, and it felt like both of them were like hitting me with like a bell, you know. And so I started like crawling kind of backwards through the grass. I was just trying to get away from the pain at that point, because there's light enough that I could see like their shoes and their pants. And then they just, you know, which was nondescript, but they just ran. I was scared a little bit because I was thinking about how easily it could have been for them to do much worse than that, you know. And then I just I got up and I made sure, just kind of checked myself, got into the house as quickly as possible. I could lock the door, and my middle son, who's 14, he was kind of up and wondering, and he was just like, oh, you know what happened? Or just kind of looked at me, you know, and I was just like, well, I said, I just fell like that. And he was just like, ooh, I don't know, it's just not something you want to talk about with your kids. I'm supposed to take care of all their, I'm supposed to protect them and take care of all their pain. I don't want them to have to think about protecting me or taking care of mine, because they're just kids, and you know, they didn't ask for this. So it's a shame that I do have to like do this, but I do feel like I have to, you know what I mean, in order to save something for them. And if people had done this a few generations back, and it wouldn't be so bad, and I don't want them to have to wait a few generations from now and maybe worse happens to them. Maybe they think that they can just come in and shoot somebody, kill somebody or something like that, you know. And everybody deserves to have clean water. It's a righteous cause, and everybody should fight for it, you know. And when I woke up the next morning, I didn't have any fear. They thought they were like beating fear into me, and I know that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to make me afraid, you know, but they accidentally beat the fear out of me. That was their mistake.
Folks across the country really need to be keeping an eye and an ear towards the South and how things are happening here, because they're pushing really aggressively against us right now. There's like 17 of us who are facing felony charges under the new anti-protest law. They're using this law to frame pipeline construction as critical infrastructure, and that supersedes water. And in a short amount of time, we've been really strategic with the work that we're doing, and been able to put a significant time frame of work stoppages, and to the point where the pipeline has had to delay their construction deadline for another quarter. And that's because we were doing nonviolent direct action. We're out there and we're stopping the construction, you know, and these folks are fighting tooth and nail to do whatever they can to stop us, because they know that we have been effective.
The man with the hat that says police is not a police officer.
They're trying to say that this isn't a navigable waterway when you know that it is.
Do not touch it!
Dr. King talked about that arc of justice, and I always say, yeah, it's definitely an arc, but people have to reach up and grab it and pull it down with everything they got in order to bring it. Everybody has to make their mind up, and I got good people that have made their mind up that they want to be on the right side of history. As long as I've been out here, and I've been out here for months and months and months now, just like living and, going back and forth and stuff. And there's always something magical out here. Sometimes you come around a tree, and there'll be like 60 butterflies just take off right in front of you like that, That is freedom. Like that, just being you and the earth, and everything that you have is just going into not just surviving, but connecting and discovering. It's everything that human beings like want, that magic.
You and I don't know our own strength, can't afford to keep our eyes closed. I can see you. Can you see me? And the fear, it just fades away. In our fight, darkness has no prayer.